Hi, I'm Kat, marketer turned brand storyteller,
And I'm Candace, educator turned entrepreneur.
and you're listening to
Not nice, clever.
We're two introverts who speak on stages around the country and work with top personal brands who also unapologetically require 24 to 48 hours of recovery time on the couch in our favorite sweats, all Netflix and no chill.
And to be clear, we're not quiet or nice. Together, we're redefining what it means to be an introvert who means business. It's time to show up and show off. Are you in?
On today's episode of Not Nice Clever, we are pleased to introduce the Clever Crew to Justin Konikow. He is the founder and owner of Prime Brokerage out of Southwestern Ontario, Canada, founder and owner of Prime Media Production, a super connector, real estate broker, and all-around powerhouse and leader in helping people drive more business, garner more sales, and leverage content to expand and amplify. But he also is quite the human at heart. So we are so excited to be able to have you learn from him today. So without further ado, please meet Justin. Well, Justin, we are so appreciative and cannot wait for the Clever Crew to get to know you better. Crew, you're in for a treat. We have had the pleasure of knowing Justin for what seems like a decade, but has only been a few short years. But we've gone on such a journey of growth and entrepreneurship together. There's just so much that I could ask you. But I think where I want to start, because you're such a wealth of knowledge, is what is really top of mind for you at this moment? What is on your heart? What are you preaching? What can you not shut up about? What does the Clever Crew need to hear from Justin?
So actually, it's funny you asked me that question. I'm very deep into time management right now. And that came from me auditing my ecosystem and myself, quite frankly, and thinking about, what's the biggest frustration and struggle people have. And we touched on it before we even jumped live on the calendar. And I booked too much. And, there's always a million things going on in everybody's world, yourself included. So very much top of mind is, am I spending my time and energy and money in the right places? And how can I develop an effective system for doing that that gives me the life that I've always dreamed of?
We love that. We have said this how many times, Candace, that you can always make more money. You can always hire more team members. You cannot get time back. It is one of the most precious resources. So I love that that's your focus right now, Justin.
Justin, what are some of the resources that you've tapped into, or is there any certain maybe person or framework that has helped you right now?
Yeah, I mean, all my mentors, I look at successful people and I look at where do they deploy their time, right? And I think in auditing them, a couple simple things is they have a very effective morning routine. They have very clear goals and they say no to a lot of stuff, right? So those are three main key takeaways I've learned from people that we're in collaboration with, from people that don't even know they're my mentors that I follow online and I obsess about their success. I look at people like Kathy Truitt, who founded Chick-fil-A, and I've Chick-fil-A compared to there's another company that started at the same time as them, and that company had more franchise locations, was making way more money, it was expanding faster than they ever were, and is now at a business. And I look at what Kathy Truitt did with his business, and what he did consistently is he did one thing really well, and he constantly refined that product until he created the success that he did. And they're more successful now than McDonald's, Subways, and there was one other company, Starbucks, combined in terms of profitability.
Wow.
So I started thinking of where am I spending my time? Is it, me being on social media apps 24/7 instead of being in the systems prospecting? Is it me not providing clear direction to my leadership team and spending time in the deep work? And I really started thinking about my front loaded year and then what my typical week looks like and my typical day. And I started making some huge changes, meaning scrapping all of my morning meetings on Mondays because I felt I didn't want the team to start with that as their week and that craziness, and giving them that deep work time. And then, but figuring out a time to be in collaboration with our team, because getting belly to belly with them in the office makes a huge difference. And then figuring out when are we training? Okay, when are we taking care of our wives and our families and our bodies and all components of our life, because we compartmentalize our work as if it's this independent entity. But if you're not taking care of those main components of your life first, you hate your job because it prevents you from doing the things that you want to be doing. So going down a bit of a wormhole, but yeah, learning from other people much smarter than me, as I always try to do.
I love that. My
Here for it.
husband is in my husband is in this mastermind with high level CEOs, and he meets with them once a month in San Diego. And they like always share some of their goals. And he came home one day and he was like, babe, I just am so grateful because at least 3 of the guys in the meeting today said that their goals is to like have one lunch date with their wife or have coffee with their wife in the morning. And like, we do that all the time. And like, that's because that's something that we've prioritized in our relationship. Like, we don't start work until a time that will allow us to spend time together in the morning because we want to. Or if we want to have a lunch date in the middle of the day, we prioritize that and talk about that probably the week before. Or we take a walk and it's never like, I have to work, I don't have time for you. The way we work is in service of our relationship. And like, I don't think
Yeah.
everyone operates like that.
No, and I think you do have to, I mean, you got to go through the you got to go through the fires and the swamps to kind of figure out what works for you. And it doesn't work for everybody, but I think if you plan your buckets and then think about the order of importance, like it's funny, we started a small group of people talking about this topic. It was 5 of us. I have 48 people on a list tagged in my CRM to do like a private little Zoom call about this specific topic. And I'm going to show them my calendar and how I plan my year. But it actually starts with, in my world, my buckets would be faith, family, fitness, fun, finances. And the order of importance really does matter, because if my heart's not right with God, I'm not in a good place to serve my family. If I'm not in a good place to serve my family and I'm trying to work out, I'm maybe distracted because I'm being selfish and I haven't taken care of them. But now I've taken care of those 3 things and I'm in great shape, I can go have fun. If I want to go hiking, I won't be tired. I can go do things I want to do. And the finances, the work is actually last. And the reason the work is last is the reverse of what I said to you. If I take care of those 4 things and I'm at work, you can't beat me because I'm happy. Why is Justin so happy all the time? Why is he upbeat? I'm like, well, I genuinely try and put a lot of effort into those 4. And now I love my work because I get to do the thing that allows me now to give back to those first 4. But if I do it in reverse order and it's all work and it's all growing my followers, growing my email list, making more money, selling more houses, I've never met a single person to this day that has a lineup at their funeral because they had a lot of money. I've met a lot of people that have love, loyalty, and respect because they took care of those first 4. And they probably made a lot of money because they took care of those first 4, right?
Justin, this is such a picture of being so proactive and so holistic in your approach. And it's so funny that you mentioned about, the funerals. I literally attended a celebration of life for a dear family member this past weekend, and she was somebody who embodied what you're talking about. Her relationship with her community and her church, her family, her grandchildren, her children, even me. And there were over the course of a few hours at the celebration of life, over 300 people that came through. And over my introvert self was a bit overwhelmed when I walked in, but then I thought to myself, no, this is truly a reflection of her impact and her love, and that they're showing up and spending time and sharing memories. And I just think a lot of people tend to go the reactive route. And I can see how it might be easier. It's very tempting. Maybe they don't even realize they're doing this, but I just think it's incredible that you've found your order of operations and that you stick to it relentlessly, unapologetically.
I put my hand up for the audio listeners because I fail all the time, right? Like I haven't found it, but I think that's life. I think life is the finding of the thing.
Mm.
I think it's this constant refining process where things have changed dramatically, right? Where I'm not a night owl, right? Like I turn into a pumpkin after 7 o'clock. I'm playing Legos with my daughter. I'm doing things that I'm going to do with her. And I'm going to say no to speaking engagements that people in this world may be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got asked to speak there and you didn't go. Like, I say no to a lot because my ambition, I don't recruit. My time's not for sale. I don't coach. So like, what's my net benefit of me leaving my family to go do a speaking engagement? Sure, it'll make my ego feel great, but that's not aligned with my current business opportunities. And like, I struggled with that for a long time. Like I thought that I needed to be that guy, but like, why? Because the world was telling me I needed to be, because I needed more followers, because I needed more listings. When in reality, like the time that I would spend with my daughter, that is going to have more significant impact in her life than any speaking engagement that I can do. But the only way to find it is by failing and then not being scared to review your last year and be like, where did I fail? Where could I improve? Put it in front of you and then try and do it. Like I failed today at a bunch of stuff, but tomorrow I'm going to try not
Scheduling,
to,
yes,
right?
and
I think
scheduling bio breaks.
that's literally the whole game. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's so important to just know your priorities and your goals so that you understand that when you are saying yes to someone, you're not accidentally saying no to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that you have to train the muscle, right? Is this perceived loss of what? Like, putting boundaries around communication with clients, taking time to tell them how things are going to happen so that I can effectively do my job. That to me, you're so scared of something that might not ever happen that you don't do the thing that might change everything. I think you said it, Candace. It's, when you have your vision of what you want to create, and then you think about the actions that are going to take to get you there, and then you actually schedule it. I think that's so important. Like, I think putting it in a place that it exists so that you can look back and take a look at your actions and see if they map to your ambitions and make adjustments to your actions and your ambitions is so powerful, because we all do it mentally. We try and do it in our heads. We remember our to-do list. We think we're going to remember to get back to all these people. Like, I want to live fluid, and I don't want to live by a schedule. I get that. Like, neither do I. But I think by having some sort of structure, I'm figuring out where I'm deploying my time. And actually, I got a guest for you girls to interview. Her name's Amelia Antonetti, much smarter than me. She's been on Oprah, Dr. Phil, some incredible shows, and she's built this incredible software for looking at human capital and looking at how your team's doing. Because if I can improve how your brain function is, your relationship, your fitness, your health, you're going to crush it at work. Fact.
Yeah.
She said something on the last podcast that's about to come out on my show. And she said her assistant, she reversed engineered it. And she said, I think she said 800 weeks left in her life. And she analyzed her time and how much time she thinks she has left in this world. She could die tomorrow, but regardless, let's say you have 800 weeks left. Her assistant's job isn't to book her calendar. Her assistant's job is to deploy those 800 weeks. And every week that goes away, she's not going to get that back. And I think that's why I'm so big in this topic right now of talking to my team of being like, where are you spending your time and money? Because like, you're not going to get any of that back, right? It really does change your perception of time when you hear something like that.
Well, we would love to have her on. That sounds like an incredible conversation that you had. We'll definitely drop the link to your show in our show notes for the Clever Crew to give a listen to that entire thing. One thing that you mentioned was that you are now kind of unapologetically creating boundaries or systems in ways that you communicate with your clients. And maybe before you would have been afraid that that might have caused you to lose clients, perhaps. And I know our Clever Crew is listening in right now. And Kat and I both have some boundaries like this. For example, I will hop on with a client and say, today we have 20 minutes. These are 2 things that we need to accomplish by the end of this 20 minutes. And the next time we'll talk is next Monday. So they know exactly what's going down, right? And we don't get caught up doing something that is not the best use of our time at that moment.
What do you do when you get to 19 minutes and they're still talking though? Because I'm sure that happens. I'm so curious.
No, I don't. I know. I literally don't let that happen. If I feel like we're getting off track, I'll be like, so as a reminder, we have these 2 things that we need to accomplish and there's 3 minutes left. I think that this is what the next right step is. Does that feel right to you?
Anyway, sorry to cut you off, but I was more curious for the answer.
No, thank you for saying that. But I was going to ask you, what does that sound like in your business so that our audience has multiple examples of what that could sound like?
I think so. And my biggest failing is probably moving too fast and not explaining the process, right? And for those of you listening, I'm a real estate agent. I run a team in Southwestern Ontario. And in a buyer consultation or seller consultation, it's this is what happens next. And so that they feel comfortable that I'm driving the bus. A lot of it has to do with when communication happens and who does what. And I think if I don't explain to them who my office manager is, who my assistant is, who my creative director is, and the different people on my team, then the expectation is that, I'll text Justin or call him in the middle of the day because I want an update. And I'm still working on that process with them too, saying like, hey, I appreciate you reaching out to me. And actually, I fired 2 clients recently because they wouldn't listen to the framework that I provided. And there was a lack of trust. And I showed them the data. I said, we get 5 to 10 times the reach as MLS. That's why you're hiring us. We're really good at marketing. I can give you service or I can give you results. And if you only want service and you want to talk to me all day, every day, I cannot give you results and you're not hiring the right person. She hired the results guy. All she wanted was service. And I kept getting into these checkpoints with her where I was like, listen, I can't do this. This is the system is created for a reason. And if you don't trust me, I can't help you. Her answer to me in a text message was, we're not friends. This is a temporary business relationship. And my response to
Oh
her was,
boy.
I'll send you the termination contract today. Like there was no more conversation
Yeah.
because I'm like,
Yep.
genuinely, if you can't trust me and you don't think that this is a partnership, then I'm not the right person for you. And could I have sold the house? Yes. Could I have gotten in my head and thought, oh, all of those agents are going to think I fired her.
Yeah.
And to me, that was such a load of stress off my back. And I've been able to focus on the right clients by dequalifying the wrong ones. And the only way you dequalify the wrong ones is you have tough conversations. Same thing with podcast friends, hosts, employees, partnerships. My real ride or die employees, the ones that I will die on a sword for, are the ones that have had really tough conversations with me.
Mm-hmm.
We build trust through that. So I think just being 100% honest with your clients and enforcing it is very, very, very important.
I love that.
Huge. And, I think, Justin, one thing that really has always stood out to me about you is not only your marketing prowess, not only your ability to, grow and have different business segments and really expand, but your ability to lead by example and to lead your team and be an example of a leader. And so I'm curious, for our Clever Crew, this sometimes comes up because people think that in order to be a leader, they need to have the big company, they need to have the team, have the accolades, have the support, but leadership can start with just yourself. And so I would love to know kind of what your perspective or your approach is to leadership. How do you look at it and how has it helped you achieve what you have achieved?
So I think leadership is a very misunderstood concept. Great book for everybody to read is called The Motive. And The Motive is essentially a story about two financial advisors. One has an incredibly successful, thriving business. The other one is falling apart. His team is a disaster. He's not making money. And he considers this guy his biggest competitor. They end up going for lunch one day, and the entire book is this guy showing him how he created what he created. Not going to ruin the book. But the concepts that he talks about is, most of us think leadership is sitting on the yacht just collecting checks, when in reality it's eating crap and putting out fires pretty much all day long. That's your job as a leader. And I think a lot of leaders will shy away from painful markets, painful conversations, and aren't actually leaders. Like real leaders that I've met are the ones that will pick up the shovel, they'll pick up the mop, they'll stand in the gap for their team, they'll lead by example. And I think, like, really, if you go down the line, I see people in their church communities that are seating people in pews, or, say you have a big event and somebody is handing out water, or there's a janitor at a high school, or somebody serving coffee at Starbucks. Like every CEOs of the biggest companies in the world, all of these people are leaders in their own way. You don't have to be somebody that has all the bells and whistles and accolades of a leader or a team or followers on Instagram or views or subscribers. Like some of the real leaders that you know in your communities, if you really think about it, in your friend groups, in the places you frequent on a daily basis, some of the most influential leaders are not influencers, and some of the biggest influencers have no influence and are not leaders at all. And I think, going back to what I said, where do you look for patterns for better time management? If I'm looking for patterns for leadership, it's people that are willing to do the work that they're asking the people to do. And they're also the people that are doing the dirtiest work out there. And I think if you're brand new and you're just by yourself and you want to become a leader, I think you really need to stand in the fire with your people. And that's how you're going to really learn to become a leader, because then you'll hear the pain points that they have. And I also think a leader's role is to think a couple steps ahead. So if you hear there's a pain point, people often think in like 1, 3, 5-year windows. The leaders out there are thinking 5, 10 years ahead, thinking about how they can position their ecosystem and the people within it for success, despite what may happen with the markets, interest rates, everything else, right? They're finding ways to cultivate culture amongst their organizations, where I think for a long time, leaders of the past were strictly profit driven. And I think now human capital and people are becoming much more important. And I believe in people over profits in a big way. I don't think that we're going to be able to compete with the companies that are purely profit driven. So leaders of the future focus on the people.
Kat and I couldn't agree more with that.
Y'all, that was just a mini masterclass in leadership. You're welcome. Thank you, Justin. Seriously, everything that you just said, it's It's funny, the more and more I grow in my career, then less and less I pay attention to like people's job titles, right? Or their resumes. And I'm just looking at like the day-to-day of what they're actually doing, or how do they actually respond in real time when you come to them with a problem, when you tap them on the shoulder and be like, I need help. How do they respond? Right? I don't
Yeah.
whatever digital sees, like that's the impact that I remember. That's memorable for me.
You're out there building your personal brand and you also have a team relying on you. But if your people don't know how to fish for themselves, the burden of new business always falls on you. Ouch, no thanks.
The opportunity we see, teach your team how to generate their own business.
The result, more time and energy back in your day so you can scale sans burnout.
Amplify by Not Nice Clever is the ace up your sleeve, a hands-on workshop full of replicable frameworks and actionable strategies that your team can put in place right away.
Your job? Sit back and let us work our magic.
Even CEOs need help sometimes. We've got you. Head to our show notes to get the deets. #outsourced.
Yeah, I was just hanging out with Ray Allen, actually. I did a podcast with Ray right
We
before
love
this.
Ray.
Allen.
Yeah. Ray's a good dude. He was on Prime People and we were just chatting it up and we were talking about the shifts in social. And like we've gone through these different ages of, first it was authenticity, then it was super polished branding, imagery,
Filters,
and now
yeah.
filters. And now we're going through the TikTok. We went through the hormosification of reels, and that's going away now. Now it's the TikTokification and discoverability. And it doesn't matter how big your following is. You can have 1,000 followers and go viral on any platform because they're all changing their algorithms. And he was talking about making more of a vlog type feed than what he's done previously, which was very curated, very structured. And I agree with him. I said, I've always kind of thought I'm chaos. Like my feed is not polished at all, but neither am I. I'm all over the place and I do a lot of different things. But if you follow my feed, you have an idea of what I do and all the different ways that I do it and what's important to me. I do feel like we're now going through a social evolution where the creator economy is front and center. I don't think people realize to what level it's front and center, where a guy like Nico, my creative director, runs PMP, Prime Media Productions. Like we're doing stuff in hospitality, legal, automotive, a lot of different spaces too. And like, dude's a talent. And I don't want him to be my employee. We've talked about this. I want him to create his own personal brand, be able to potentially do courses down the road and a million other things, launch a platform that fires him up and people see how good he is at what he does in alignment with the stuff that we're doing. And I don't own him. He doesn't need me. I don't need him. Are we better together than we are apart? Probably.
Preach.
And if not, then separate conversation, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where things are going. It's no longer the boss owns the employee. It's people are in alignment together, right?
Yes.
Totally. I think that's so important. And something else that you said reminded me about how I think prior to in the past few years, it's been look at me content, and now it's come with me content. Right? Come along with me. Come along the journey. See what's going on. And I think that's probably what Ray was talking about. As far as wanting to do vlog style, that's come with me content where you get to see the process and the journey. You get to watch the evolution, and that's inspiring to people.
And I think, the platforms are much more positioned to help people find their people now than they were before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And I think it's so cool that we're having this conversation right now, because I was talking about this with Will, and we're talking about shifts in social, shifts across industries, but talked about how like the longevity of a chef and in hospitality. And he's like, there's only, so many ways and so many avenues you can go. And he's now considering, Candace, I don't think we even told you this, but he wants to launch a YouTube channel so that he can reach and mentor like the next generation of line cooks who want to become chefs. And I was like, babe, right now your impact is limited to the city of DC, but YouTube would open it up to everybody with a Wi-Fi signal. And I think that shift and that realization is just so powerful to see how you can really impact people. And it's the perfect confluence of what do you want to focus on? What do you want to have an impact on? What, and how do you want to be perceived? How do you want to lead? What do you want to really devote your time to? Again, bringing it back to that initial conversation of time auditing.
Yeah, actually, when it comes to YouTube, I agree 1,000%. So that same guy that was on my podcast, Brendan Sutton, he only has so much time. He has only so much time to train his private clients that he has because he's a great MMA fighter. but that's not where he's going. He's going into music. And I was like, okay, you can only work so many gigs and you're only going to work them in your territory. I think that the future for you is streaming consistently so people can feel like they're getting these little mini concerts. But I would also not limit yourself to thinking about YouTube as a platform, because you're an amazing musician. Like, would teaching somebody that was self-taught how to play guitar be something you'd be interested in? He's like, yeah. I'm like, there is a $1 million business right there on YouTube that will go out and find the people that want to learn guitar. And it lines up nicely with the intersection of what are you good at, what do you love to do, and what would people pay you for? And I think individual creators like Nico, like Brendan, so many other people can take something that they're passionate about and have a talent for and make money doing it in a way that they never could have before, using the creator economy and everything else, right? So I love that story with Will, and I think that he should definitely take your advice.
Excellent. I'm going to send him this episode as soon as it airs, just so I'm not the only one telling him to do it, because we all know how that goes. All right. We have just a couple more questions and then we're going to get to rapid fire. But Justin, I would love to know, of all the things that you have accomplished, what's one thing you used to dream about that's now a reality for you?
That's a great question. I think innately, the most random thing is that I get to tell stories through pictures and video. I think as a kid, that was the one thing I remember my dad saying to me when I was young. I took this photo and he just told me I had this natural talent. And whether he was saying it because I was his kid or because he actually liked the photo is neither here nor there. But I think words have power, and that stuck with me. I'm not the world's greatest photographer, but I sure do like pictures and video. And I get to do that through the vehicle of real estate. And I'd say clients probably hire me most for how I translate the story of their property into video using talented people like Nico and the production company. That, and then also that I never thought I had anything of value to give people. And now I get people that encourage me like you and say very nice things, and put me on platforms like this to allow me to inspire other people through my journey. Because if I didn't feel like I was worthwhile, I bet you there's other people that feel the same way, and that they are just as valuable as anybody else, and they should probably tell their story.
That's so important. Thanks for sharing that. We are into our last segment, Justin. Thank you for spending time with us. This is just rapid fire, but it's not anxiety inducing at all. Super simple questions. What is one of your childhood nicknames?
Juice. It is on my forearm, actually. Juice.
What?
No
Okay,
way.
well, we need to know why now.
Yeah.
So a lot of
story
people,
time.
my wife saw it and she's like, "Do you use steroids?" I wasn't that big. And I was like, "No, I don't do steroids." My nickname was actually Juice, but jus in French. So Jus. I used to drink a lot of apple juice. My rugby coach named me that at some point or another. I'm not sure exactly why. And it stuck with me. And this tattoo was a bad decision, but it reminds me of a bad time in my life, that a version of myself that is long dead and gone, and reminds me that I want to stay towards the person I'm trying to become.
All right, I love it. And what's your go-to lazy dinner after a long day of work?
Oh, that's also a good question. I mean, pizza. General Assembly has a wild sourdough margarita pizza, and I could eat all the pizza in the world. So I would say that without a blink of an eye.
That sounds good. I need to order pizza today. Okay. Takis or hot Cheetos? Wait, do they have these options in Canada? I don't even know.
No, but I like
No.
all things hot sauce. My wife got me a giant box of hot sauces from around the world. They think I'm nuts, but I am a giant
Good
spicy
woman
food fan.
there. I love
She's
it.
solid.
What is the best non-curse word? One word insult. If you were going to insult someone. I don't know, Justin might be too nice for this one.
No response, actually, is the best
No
response.
response.
It leaves an open loop. So I got a really nasty
Silence.
letter. The silence is golden. It's everything. Because A, they'll never know if their message even got to you. B, if it did, no
I didn't
response.
think about
Will just
that.
leave
That's
that loop open in
genius.
the brain. Yeah. No
Leave
response.
the loop open. It's a little bit torturous and I'm kind of into it. Okay,
I'm here for that. Okay, but what was the mean letter that you left on read? It's just being left on read.
No, it wasn't a mean letter. So a crazy story,
Okay.
but I had a neighbor that super nice guy in the beginning. We were building our house. We let him use our water and electricity, and he was doing this big addition. And then I was building a shed and didn't want me to build a shed in a specific place. So I was like, sure, where would you like it? And he told me exactly where he wanted it. And then I built the shed there. And then after, like, I left the concrete pad there for like 6 months. This is where you want it. Yep, amazing. I didn't care. I was like, whatever. Want to be a
it's
nice
a shed.
neighbor. Built the shed. And then dude takes me to the municipal board saying, oh, it's within this far of the setback. I'm like, this is where you actually asked me to put it. I was like, you want me to take down a shed that I just built? So I kind of drew the line, and I went to the municipal office, and they ruled in my favor. I got a minor variance, and then he sent me this really nasty letter. And I called a lawyer friend of mine because I was like, now that he's gone through this steps, like how to respond.
Right.
My buddy Phil gave me the advice. He goes, no response. And I was like, what? But I was like, I had my whole response ready. I'm like, I could say this, and he's like, no response. He's like, it'll drive him absolutely bonkers. So ever since then, that's the hack for sure.
That's it. That's how you learned that lesson. I love it. Thanks for sharing the wisdom. The Scorpio in me really likes that. All right. What makes you nervous?
It's funny. So I think of what am I scared of? And kind of the same question, because I was talking about this with my daughter. It's letting down my wife or daughter above all things, right? Like letting people down in general, because I try and do a lot of stuff, and maybe sometimes I try and do too many different things. So I got to start saying no more. But definitely letting down my wife and daughter would be at the very top of that list.
Yep. What's the last thing you bought online? I don't know why, but I feel like Justin's also not an online shopper.
That's not true. I do. Amazon is deadly. I'm looking at, so from a creator standpoint, the Elgato prompt.
Some equipment. I knew he was going to
Well,
say.
I'm looking at it.
That was where I put my money at.
So the Elgato prompter is actually phenomenal. It mounts on your DSLR camera, and it puts
I remember you
everything
telling
right
me
on the
about that.
screen. It's fire. But I think actually it was a book, Buy Back Your Time. I bought a book for Mike Heddle, who's a very good friend, and it's one of my favorite books. So you asked about time hacks. Dan Martell, the book Buy Back Your Time is by far the number one thing that I would read if you were looking to get a hold of your schedule.
All right. We'll drop them in the show notes for the Clever Crew. So I am at the airport more days than not, and I like to arrive where I just get to like walk onto the plane. I don't want to wait around. Are you the person who gets to the airport 2 minutes ahead of time or 2 hours ahead of time? Because Kat and I have an ongoing debate.
I'm way ahead of time, and I typically like to read or write or block off some time.
Thank you.
Right? So I'm there super, super early.
While you're at the airport, that's your
just pretty much everywhere, right? I always try and get there a little bit early. So today I did a terrible job. Everything was back to back, but typically I like to do 30 to 15-minute increments ahead and after every meeting.
I love it. Is your wife the same way, or is she the one that
wants
to arrive as her name's getting called over the intercom?
I want to say like she is by the book, super organized, more than you can ever imagine, except when she travels. So like our honeymoon was supposed to be Italy for like 7 days. And she's like, I have an idea. And I've learned that when she says I have an idea, that there's more to come to that sentence. We ended up renting a car, driving to Monte Carlo, Milan, Switzerland, Paris, Channel, different car, England, Killarney, up to Edinburgh, Ireland, back through over to London, and proceeded to do the same.
So you just toured Europe, essentially, for your honeymoon.
And woke up every day and just picked a place on a map. And it was like, do we go to Glasgow or do we go to Edinburgh? And I was like, this is beyond me, because like I'm very much situational awareness. Where are we staying? Making sure we're staying, everything too. She's when she travels, it's complete opposite.
Dang.
That's so fun. I love that.
I love it. She must have some Sagittarius in her, because that is quite the wanderlust. I love it.
So Kat is obsessed with Marvel and comic books. If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
I know everybody. No, I actually don't know. Probably just relentlessness or consistency. I'd say that is the ability to do something that may be ridiculously boring for a consistent enough time that it allows me to be somewhat successful. I think that's my answer.
Consistency as a superpower.
I love it.
I love it.
Where can the people find you and hang out with you?
So I'd say my Instagram is probably the best place if you want to connect with me. For this group, if you want to be on that time management call, just send me a DM on Instagram. I actually handle that. And then I'm on all podcasting platforms. Check out Prime People. Both of you have been guests on that show. Kat was just on recently as well, too, on the Sell It side. And then my YouTube channel, Justin Konikow, if you want to explore the crazy brain. I put out weekly videos there and also host the podcast there.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, Justin.
Yeah, it was awesome catching up with you ladies, and hopefully catch up with you soon in person once we make our way down south to Florida.
Yes, we'll need to make that happen.
Thanks for joining us on Not Nice, Clever.
Remember to follow our podcast wherever you listen to audio.
And if you found today's episode valuable, please share it with your friends.
No gatekeeping here. Remember, we love to see our clever crew grow.
Signing off, you're not so nice, but oh so clever besties that mean business.
See you soon.